The Centers for Disease Control have raised an alarm over the increase of suicides in the U.S. According to their data, suicides have increased 25% since 1999. The U.S. suicide rate increased in every state between 1999 and 2016, and firearms were the most common method used by people to take their own lives. According to a report released Thursday by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there have been about 45,000 people dying from suicides in 2016 alone, according to research by the U.S. government. More than half of those who died by suicide had been diagnosed with a mental condition, said Dr. Ann Shochat, the principal deputy director of the CDC. She noted that these findings are disturbing. Suicide is among the top 10 causes of death in the U.S. right now, and it's one of 3 causes that is actually increasing recently, so we do consider it to be a public health problem and something that is all around us. Our data shows that the problem is getting worse. Suicide rates increase the most in some western and midwestern states, which are generally rural, including Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, and Minnesota, as well as Kansas and Oklahoma. Suicide rates among youth have increased as well. Suicide-related teen hospitalizations accounted for 0.66% of all hospital visits in 2008, but by 2015 the figure had more than doubled to almost 2%, according to a study published Wednesday in Pediatrics. The findings show that through 2008 to 2015, nearly 116,000 children aged 5 to 17 were seen at 31 hospitals, either for having suicidal thoughts or having attempted suicide, 2/3 of girls. Suicide is now the 3rd leading cause of death among American adolescents, the study's author noted. Now, once again, gun activists have demanded that more restrictions be placed on firearms to help prevent suicides. They have failed to note that other countries have high suicide rates that don't have access to firearms. The primary cause of suicide in the U.S. are the lack of access to mental health, which among private healthcare providers are razor thin in terms of profit. The other primary cause is the further degeneration of the social situation in the U.S. As the commodification of society increases, the greater manifestations of alienation are going to take place. How? We only need to take a look at a few explanations by Marx. By thus acting on the external world and changing it, he at the same time changes his own nature. He develops his slumbering powers and compels them to act in obedience to his sway. In the Grundrisse, Marx emphasized the point society does not consist of individuals. It expresses the sum of connections and relationships in which individuals find themselves. To put it briefly, our labor and thus our connection to each other are alienated from each other. This is often why people seek out identities to fill that void that are left by absent connections. Patriotism, religion, identity politics are often used, rather than recognizing the problem. So-called Marxists often resort to these identities and reinforce them, rather than seeking out revolution to solve the problem. Revolution is dangerous. ID poll is easy and safe. A good manifestation of the lack of revolutionary potentials by First Worldists. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.